Hey, what's up guys? Today we're going to take a look at 3 different types of studio setups, everything going from conference room to your apartment to buying a space and building out exactly what you want over there. First one we're going to look at is a conference room. So I've actually been planning to turn the conference room I'm currently in into a studio. Let's take a look at what that might be. So obviously I started with a 3D render. As we know, this is the studio space that I'm currently in. And over here in the corner, this is the conference room. So if you watched the last video on the desk setup, you'll know that this is a 10-foot conference room table that is on an up desk. I'm actually currently working on it right now. And one idea I had was to flip it around in the room so the room actually looks like this over here, right? So conference room table. We have this kind of divot by the windows. That's what's currently behind me. Then we have, blank wall over here. And I was thinking of putting some TVs up here. So if we look at the render, what we'll see is these would be 2 maybe 65, 75-inch TVs. They'd be on stands. I could potentially, if I really liked it, mount them into the concrete wall. We've done that before. All right, and then I could have, a front camera right here. It's actually just a projector that I made really tiny. And then, I have the up desk, so that could move up and down. I could be right here. The back would be a wall. And then over here, I can have kind of a couple different desk setups. These are some 43-inch monitors that I have. So I was thinking of putting them on up desk in the little alcove over here. And then I could, keyboard, mouse, do tests, etc. And any kind of builds and things I'd be reviewing, I could put over here on the conference room table. So this would be like a very small studio setup. Notice that I probably run a computer just to handle everything over here. I might make one of these a computer that also pushes over here. That way, if I need to hop on Zoom calls, do tutorials, things like that, I can do it. Over here, I'd probably have some sort of a multi-view, probably run the whole thing through an Atem Mini Extreme. That way I can monitor record, streaming status, audio, all of it. Then I'd probably use a Rodecaster Pro, or I just go with the Rode Wireless Go 2s, which I'm very happy with, and run that right into the computer. So that is probably how I would run this system here. Not getting too intricate in terms of all the wiring and the setup, but enough for you guys to get the idea. So that would be the little conference room studio setup. Now, the next setup would be an apartment. So I found online an apartment that I was actually somewhat interested in. Didn't end up going with it though, but this would be it. It's a large open style space. I'd get rid of these beds, but you can see the potential for a lot of different studio space in here. You could have people over, you could use it to live in. Obviously, it has the whole kitchen area, right? So how would I turn this into a studio space? So here's what I was thinking. Go back to my render here. Over here, I kind of mocked up what it would be. So this is the kind of size layout-ish. Again, it's decently eyeballed. I did go tour this space just to get an idea of what it really was like. But this was the studio space I thought of. So this was an apartment. Obviously, you need the bed and then a desk setup, dresser, etc. Over here was just tons of storage. So that was just like a ginormous closet that you could store a bunch of stuff in. And then over here is really where the studio would be. So obviously, you have the kitchen area. I'm not going to tear anything down. But let's go and start with the main kind of camera shot. So obviously, there's all this window space over here, as we saw in the previous images. I'd actually, because I have some more space, I'd actually do an up desk with a camera and monitor mounted to it. Now, I'll get to why I don't have giant TVs in front of this setup, because it's a very flexible setup and I would just roll TVs over if I wanted it. So basically, I have an up desk with a camera mounted on it. It had the Atem Mini, Rodecaster, anything cable-wise I need would all be on this desk. I could have multiple camera angles, obviously the top-down shot, things like that. It would then shoot this way onto this up desk. This could be like a 8-foot by 2.5, 3-foot table. Okay, nothing huge. I mean, 8 foot's decently big, but this would also be on an up desk because I love up desks. And all my up desks are motorized because I'm not going to sit there and crank it all the time. So then that camera would shoot this way onto this background. And this wall happens to be green at the moment. I'd probably cover it up, paint it, whatever. I talked to the guy, he's like, yeah, do whatever you want to the space. So why not? Then behind me, I'd probably go a little more overkill with two different type of desk setups, maybe a PC, maybe a Mac, maybe I'd be building a setup or have a setup built that I'm talking about, and then I'd be building a new one. So that would be the background of this shot. Very interesting. I could put stuff up on the monitors, etc. So that could be really cool. There, obviously, I could switch from it. The place had fiber, so like this could be a very good studio live streaming setup just from this area. So that would be here. So the camera would see something, and this is the beauty of doing 3D renders, right? I can kind of zoom into exactly what the camera could or would see. So the camera would see something like this. I think that would be a good looking setup. This in the background, etc. And I could use it as a sitting or standing area, and I'd probably end up working from this area a lot as well, even though I would have a legit kind of desk, a little more private over here. I'd have this here. Now, all the windows could prove for very good natural lighting and very horrible lighting if the sun's on my face, etc. Luckily, there were blinds that went all the way around. Sound and everything you still have to deal with. I usually wear a lav mic, so it's not too bad. Okay, and then over here, this was like the fun part. This was like one of the wow pieces, which was, I call it the poor man's video wall, which essentially is just 4 75-inch TVs, but vertical. Okay, and then I spec'd out how to, you can get these stands online from like Walmart. You can mount these TVs vertically on those stands, and it works. I've done it, I've tried it, and I'll probably do a demo of it if I ever build something like this again. I had built a ton of them back on the East Coast. So that's that. You can link them all together, but because they're really just TVs vertically, what I would do as an upgrade to them is I'd actually be able to take one over here, and let's see if I can just take this one and let's rotate it. And then I take that actual TV that's on it. See if I can pull up the actual TV here, and I'd rotate this guy. So I'd basically have them on rotating mounts. I've done that before as well, where I've had TVs that were on called 360 swivel mounts. And that way, when I needed to, I could just take the TV and drag it wherever I needed it. So if I wanted to take 2 of them, right, I could do that. I could take them here, again, rotate it so it kind of fits in the space. It'd be tight. I mean, it's an apartment that you're also using as like a work living space. So, but then I could just have, stand here, look up at the TV. I have the cameras here, and I could get the exact same effect without having to spend all the extra money on multiple TVs. Now, what I would do in this case is I'd actually make all 4 of these TVs wireless, and I would use if I had to do it right now, I'd use the Axoon Sinai 2S Pro for my wireless. And yes, you can run 4 separate wireless transmitter receiver sets. I'd have them all running through, let's say, 2ME HD Constellation, and that's how I would get signal. That way, all I'd have to do is just make sure I provide power over here. I put them on battery so you don't lose your wireless transmission and receiving signals, and essentially I could roll these things around, and when I want to, I could run it through a video wall processor to make all 4 TVs become one image, or I just hit a button on the Atem software and I could have each TV be an individual signal. So that would be super handy. Again, to make them all one image, you need a video wall processor, 1x4 in this case. But that's exactly how I would run this setup. Now I'm just gonna hit Control Z, put it back the way it was. So that is how I would run this system. So pretty small studio setup, but very powerful. Again, I'm not getting too into exactly how I'm wiring it, but I'd be using Atems, some wireless video in this case for the video wall, and I'd have a bunch of different desks to run different desk setup and test different things, all based on being able to videotape and stream things that I'm doing very easily. Internet is also very important, but I'm not too concerned with like backup internet and backup power if the power goes out, etc. I have a lot of laptops, so we can make do there. All right, the last and final one was, what if we get a space like this, a really large space that is dedicated to be a studio? How would I build this one out? Well, honestly, the ideas wouldn't change that much. You still want a desk setup to do reviews, etc. So in my last render here, and I eyeballed this one. I hadn't toured this space. Again, I just found it online. This is what it was. This is what I started with. So I zoomed in and grabbed that screenshot to kind of start with a floor plan. So I was able to cut this out. Super high ceilings. I would probably eventually hang some stuff off of the ceiling here, including like a lighting grid, etc. So those would be in the works. But lots of space here. I assume there's a lot of windows over on this side. I never found a picture of what that actually looked like. But the two pictures I went off of was this space over here, and then this, and then I know that there's a loft up here. I don't know exactly how big, but based on the floor plan, I assume that it's coming over this hallway. So it has to be at least, 3 to 6 feet up there. So decent size. All right. So this was the space. Let's see what I would do with it. So very similar to the other space, but a lot more room. So again, with the up desk, again, I was able to copy and paste a lot of this over. So I'd make some sort of wall background here. I couldn't find the exact fabric I wanted, but you've actually seen it in my previous videos. So some sort of backdrop here. I'd have the desk. So this would be a very clean setup. So all of these desks are on wheels. I forgot to mention that. So that way, if I really wanted to, I would take these two guys and I'd be able to rotate this whole setup around pretty easily. And I could even move it over here. And now I could shoot this way. So I'd basically get multiple sets in this. Really easy to move the desk around again if I wanted to. And I could have the video wall as a backdrop, right? And so I can move this guy back, have the video wall. So now I have a really easy setup to move around. I have an up desk that's always going to be leveled. It's on wheels. Obviously, we know an up desk can go up and down very easily, so setting the exact camera height that you want, etc., would work out well. The other thing you could do is essentially make this up desk wireless with a remote or an iPhone app. So you could sit or stand at your table that you want and move your camera up and down to get your exact height. That could be a really cool feature. So I could have the video wall as a background, I could have this desk setup or both desk setups as a background, or I could have kind of a cleaner, blank, darker background here, and there's more backgrounds over here, etc. So that's how I would do this one. Same idea with having these TVs, which are again just 4 75-inch TVs, put them together with a video wall. I still run these ones wireless. I'm not too concerned about latency. A lot of times I'm having a video loop or something simple on the background. I'm not a big gamer, so if I wanted to game, I could easily plug them in. I can have SDI lines anywhere in the studio. I'd probably put some sort of video rack down here in the corner to kind of run everything, and that way all my cables would be pretty easy, all my networking, etc. All right, I could potentially put a rack up there and run all the cables down. It just seems like a lot of cables. Better to put it in the corner, easier to plug things in and out. But putting up a rack up there could be very useful. I use this as storage. I really have no idea what I would use this little upper compartment for. It would be a cool angle to kind of shoot down, so I'd probably have a camera or two up there just to be able to get wide shots. So that would be really cool to have up there. You could run a lot of events from out here, so inviting a bunch of people over to do different events and teachings, etc. That would be cool. But the real kicker for me was this loft. So up here, if I wanted to make this a living space, I'd put a bed over here in this corner. There is the most space. You'd have dressers, etc. But for now, because this would be a working space, I could have 2 desks up here. I could easily fit more, but I thought 2 would just be simple. I could have an editor or other people come over and work in the space. You know, you have the TV and a couch if you want to relax a little bit more. I like to work on a couch a lot with the laptop on my lap, watch TV, just something to have in the background. So that is kind of a mock setup of 3 different types of studio spaces that, you know, I've been looking at, building, thinking about it for some other people as well. Maybe I'll outfit their studio. So that is the designs. Nothing crazy in any of them, at least not to my standards. So those are it. So 3 different types of studios. We have the small, we have the medium, and I'd say the large. If you want to get really big, go get a warehouse. We can put a video wall in it. We can outfit it out with all the latest tech, etc. PTZs, everything you want. But I thought if I were to build it with my designs the way I want it, to shoot myself, to film myself, then we can do that. Other things that you might want to do is put a cyc wall in there, which is essentially a seamless, usually white wall. Sometimes you put it against one wall. They do it in a corner, so you have 2 sides. You could have all 3 sides. So lots of different options there. Well, I hope you found that helpful, and if you'd like, feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to help talk through ideas and give suggestions on maybe what you could do with your studio. But for now, I'll keep it short. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.